Hey, good morning. It is still May 21st, 2025, Wednesday, which I struggled to remember earlier, but now I know it's Wednesday. And it is a great, I guess, a luxury to not know the days of the week and the date. So I won't say any more on that, but I'm happy to be able to forget that at my young age. Okay, so what are we doing here? We're in part three. And we did Acts 9 already. And I didn't say in the last video, everything good begins with God. I don't think I said it because I was so stoked that Mia joined us. There's an excuse, no excuse. Should have said it. Recognize it, right? Everything good begins with God. And we have Saul's beginning here. And what does it begin with? God appearing to him, right? All right, let's move on. So we did Acts 9, and again, we're not doing a deep dive. If there's a verse we skip over or a word we skip over, just understand that's what it is. I gave a cross reference in Acts 9. I think on the appeared. I think I gave two. Colossians 3:4 and Titus 2:13. I may do that occasionally, but don't expect it. We're gonna test this video and we're not gonna read the passage, but we're gonna be Acts 20, chapter 22, verse 1 through verse 16. Please hit the pause button now and read it. You may want to start somewhere around Acts 21:33 to get some context. But at least read that, but we're not going to read it, and we're going to see how this goes. All right, so the context is Saul he's called Paul here as well. And when I say here, I mean at that time period, not necessarily in the passage. Okay, so historically going back, I'll hit that in a second. He's actually in chains. Okay, so that's where we're starting in chapter 22. He's in chains. Verse 40 does refer to him as Paul. The first referral to Paul is Acts 13, but he's still Saul. So Paul is his Roman name. Saul is his Hebrew name. We don't have that commonly now. But where I grew up, down south with the French in South Louisiana, it was common to have a nickname, have another name. Like when you were named after your father, you weren't a junior, you were a T. So it would be, if your father's name was Paul, you would be T. Paul. It's just how we did it. So it was common to have, and that was almost that Cajun heritage going along with the normal American name thing. So it was common back there. We have Peter and Cephas. There's so many examples going through. So I don't want too far on that. Sorry. Okay, so let's get to it. So Acts 13 is where we have the first references. Paul is in bonds here, and then Paul starts off in 22 in defense. Okay, he's defending. So automatically, if he's defending, and we knew the Jews, what they said in Acts 9, that they were confounded and they sought to kill him. We know he's doing more good of God, right? He's preaching that word, and he's also preaching that word in a way that confounds him because it goes against, and that's probably a bad way to say it, but I want to clearly say it doesn't align. That's a better way. It doesn't align with the Acts 2:38 and the Peter preachings. It doesn't align with that understanding that these people have. There's some differences, right? And then interesting, verse 2, the people that are sitting there get some comfort, and they get some comfort because they find out this Paul dude actually speaks Hebrew. We're no different. When someone says they're from South Louisiana, automatically get comfort with them. So when he's in the Hebrew tongue, they give attention to him, right? And then he goes through and he kind of gives his resume. But there's a really good resume which I'll talk about later, which Paul does is in his epistles. But he's kind of given his history, his resume at this point, right? And he says here that he was born in Tarsus. So what he's doing is he's establishing that rapport. And it's what you find. We read earlier where it says he goes into the tabernacles. He's a Jew, born in Rome, but he's Jewish. So he goes into tabernacles because he can relate to him. He also had Ananias actually first reach out to him. And we can conclude, because it talks about how Ananias is a devout person, we're going to come to that, and very well respected. There's something that Ananias can do to help introduce Paul, to give credibility, to give comfort that he's not this Saul persecuting character, but this Paul, right? So we understand Paul is establishing rapport. He's getting to a point to where you can listen to me. And I think we can learn from that too, right? Instead of approaching sinners with their sin, just smacking them in the face, can we come to them with some commonality, right? Can we come to them with some compassion? Why is he saying he's from Tarsus? What scriptural revelation is that? How is that going to help him get across to them? It's really not. But can it bring comfort? By him speaking in Hebrew, can it bring comfort? Can it open up their ears to where there's more of a chance for them to listen, right? So that's what he's doing here. So we don't have to slap people in the face, right? Sometimes we have to, though. So anyway, so he's talking about of Tarsus, and then he talks about this one right here is really important. You'd have to go back to Acts 5 to get an understanding of this man's prominence, Gamaliel. So Gamaliel is don't do it. So Paul's saying he was brought up at the feet of Gamaliel. Okay, that's an important stature thing. Again, he's adding to the credibility, the comfort. Please listen to me, kind of open up, and not just want to kill me from the start. And he said, taught according to the perfect manner of the law of the fathers. So this is interesting. That's what these people know. They know the manner of the law of fathers. Again, they get confounded anything that doesn't talk about the perfect manner of the law of fathers, unless they decide not to do it or they add to it. It's when someone else does it, right? It's like the sin of others. And was zealous toward God as ye all are this day. Paul's really good, and he's doing this through God. There's some buttering up. It's interesting. He's saying, he's complimenting, and it's almost like that leading thing, right? He's leading them to understand and agree that y'all are too. Y'all are zealous too. So it's interesting how he does it. Mel did point out earlier, zealous. There's a very important understanding of zealous. Zealous can be good. Zealous can be bad. You can get the context here at the end of it, but there are different ways of being zealous. And that comes to our approach too of people. And he talks about he persecuted this way. Now there's a change here, death. So we learned from Acts 9 that he sought letters, right, from the high priest, and he talks about it so he can bring them bound. And I think it says there to Jerusalem. I'm mixing it up because it says it in one of them, but it definitely says bound. Here it talks about death. And remember, we're talking about men and women. So it's interesting. And I asked Mel before we came on, we didn't want, I guess I posed the question, we didn't talk about it. I wonder if now this is being said with the death because Paul is saved. When he first is in Acts 9, 1, 2, 3, he's not saved. So when he's saying that he sought letters to bind them, is he given all the information? And I don't know if there's anything to that, but it's interesting. He's not saved in Acts 9, 1 and 2, 3. He's not saved till after he's blinded and the Lord comes down in that bright light. But here he is saved as he's given this version. So I thought that was interesting. But death is definitely new here. We can dogmatically say that. We understand Acts 9 in a different light, in a greater light, right? And then I'm not going to go over the high priest, but then it goes to what I just said, bound unto Jerusalem. I think this is interesting, and I think 26, Acts 26 version is gonna tell you more. And listen, version, again, I'm going to say it every time, does not mean one is more true than the other. Okay, so version is just God is presenting this through three perspectives in a sense, to where you gain a totality understanding. It's not like perspectives in witness today where I perceive this and you see it differently. Absolutely not. So I have to say that every time I use that word. Um, so it's interesting here in verse 6. This took a few times coming through, a few might have been 100. Um, that he talks about the light when he's struck down in a deeper context here, right? And he says about noon. This is interesting. About noon. The sun is theoretically, and I'm going to say it like that, directly overhead at noon, right? So it could be the brightest of the day. It's not to your left, it's not to your right, it's directly overhead. It's actually the hardest time, I think, to find shade. But I think of a certain man at Pelican Park who used to try and find light poles to get shade. If it's high noon, that dude couldn't find no shade. If it's the afternoon or the morning, he can stay on one side or the other. Hopefully he laughs at this too, but that is embedded in my mind forever as we're sitting in our seats and he's by himself with a light pole that's not that wide. Sorry, shouldn't have done that. That's funny. Okay, so back to the teaching. And that's out of love. That's not out of joking because I know his wife's going to want to beat me up over this, but I'm literally not making fun of. So it's high noon, brightest part of the day, sun's over the head, and somehow there's a great light. Isn't that cool? I wonder what the great light could be, right? Also, great light. Melanie, how many times, this is rhetorical. When I say Melanie, it's rhetorical, okay? Because she's here, I'm kind of involving in that sense. Um, I don't know how many videos, how much time we spent on the great light, the greater light, and the lesser light in Genesis, but it was a whole bunch. So I'm going to come back and rhetorically ask the great light, Genesis. I know it by heart now because of how much time I spent. So that was a growth in me from making these videos of something I already knew, but now I have a deeper understanding. It is Genesis chapter 1 and verse 16. Got it. So that greater light in Genesis 1:6, that was a brag, I guess. Genesis chapter 1, verse 16, great light. So go back now, or go back later, and then read Genesis 1:16 and go through the lights and so forth. All right. And fell to the ground. It's interesting too. This is really what happens at the point that we get saved. You have to hit, and I don't like to use this term, but I'm gonna use it in a different light. You have to hit rock bottom. Not rock bottom in that you're an alcoholic and you've lost your job, your family's gone. No, I don't mean that. I mean you have to spiritually and physically hit rock bottom, knowing that you're a sinner. And a sinner beyond a sinner that you fall short of the glory of God, right? You even further than that, to understand that there is no redemption of yourself. You literally were born lost and you will remain lost all of your own accord. Nothing you can do to get out of it. That is rock bottom. You can't help yourself. Literally. All you can do is keep going down in that quicksand that I talked about in the video. The more you try, the more you do, the deeper you fall in that quicksand. That's what happens here. The falling fell to the ground. That's what I think of. I think of the point where I pretty much dismissed my identity, all the religious beliefs, all the stuff that my parents, not all, stuff my parents taught me, those that I loved, the stuff that I held on to because it felt good, the rituals, the traditions of men. And literally, you have to let that go and realize that it is Christ alone.
For me, it's like humility and submission. How much lower can you be to put it all in someone else's hands?
Amen.
And I'm out of it.
Amen. So hopefully y'all heard what she said. If she was closer to the microphone, that's a hint. Y'all would have heard what she said, but that is exactly what I said in so many words, and she summed up in short, which I need to learn to do. But I want to say this. Christ says He's the way, and I think I think I'm going to talk on this when I do Luke 12. I think people are not willing to go all the way. And I don't know if I want to do this right now, but I think so many people are going 99% of the way, Melanie. And they're going to suffer forever because they just won't go all the way. It's literally one more step, one more percent. And that's what she and I just summed up. Um, to go all the way means you need to be all the way removed. If you in any way have a part, then you totally have not went all the way. I am going to say that unapologetically. If you think believing, trusting in your faith has anything to do with your salvation, you're not understanding what saves you. Your faith doesn't save you, Christ's faith does. Your faith in that faith, right, gives you that opportunity. But it is his faith that does the saving. It is his arm that reaches into that quicksand and pulls you out. You just trust at that point in time, you are the only way I'm getting out of this quicksand. I know that. And I know if I move a muscle, if I say anything, if I do anything other than believe and trust that you are going to pull me out of this, then you're not saved. And that's a hard truth. It's what I struggled with for probably a year. I was 99% there, 99.9% there, but I know when I'm there. You'll know when you're there. And it won't be the feeling of that physical feeling necessarily. It's just a comfort that I don't know you can utter. So anyway, that is not where we wanted to go, but I'm going to say it's good stuff, and I'm going to not be shameful to give myself credit on that. I'm saying that jokingly because I don't know if it was. So that's fallen to the ground. We know the question is asked. Interesting here, he in verse 8, Jesus of Nazareth. I held 9 and I took it out. I took my bookmark out. I do that all the time, by the way. So 9, how does he introduce himself, right? He says, I am Jesus whom thou persecutest. Interesting, right? Again, not saying this, just to understand. Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus who persecuted. And if you haven't studied Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, do you even know what Jesus of Nazareth is, right? And verse 9 is we're going to have a different context on this a few different times, and some people want to really deep dive in this, and I would say I didn't. I did for a little while, and I'm like, it's kind of not important in the sense of spending this much time in. So here we have talking about the men that were with Paul or Saul at the time in 9. Paul, as we talk here, saw indeed the light and were afraid. They heard not the voice of him that spake to me, right? And then here we have Paul's question is, what shall I do, Lord? And in others, he says, what will thou have me to do? And again, you can just study it out if you want. It's not saying they mean different things. It's just interesting. But what doesn't change is arise. Again, the first thing you're going to do first thing spiritually is going to happen to you when you trust in Christ alone is you're going to live for the very first time. You've been dead in sin and trespasses. You're going to live for the first time. The Holy Spirit's going to be doing a whole bunch of stuff, that immediate thing which you have nothing to do with. He's just doing it, right? The operation of God is happening there that we get in Ephesians 1 and 13. But I forgot where I wanted to go here. Oh, arise. You're going to stand spirit. You're going to stand in some positional truths at that point. So I think that's why we have that arise. We had that in story of Gideon, if you remember the Gideon thing. So arise, he arise early, I think is how it was there. This is not accidental, these words are here in my stance. We have here too a difference at the end. It says, again, verse 10, there it shall. Again, that shall word's important. That means he's going to have future revelation. So everything hasn't happened that God wants to reveal. So that, in conclusion, means the Bible hasn't been completed at this time. So that also means the Bible wasn't complete when the cross happened. And it's almost like some people read the Bible as if the cross, or at least the resurrection, let's say that, I don't choose the whole cross procedure, choose the resurrection. They almost end the Bible there in a sense. And I'm not saying they end it by not reading. They realize it goes past, but in their understanding. This is saying it wasn't done there. It's saying it's not done here. It's also dogmatically saying I'm going to reveal more to Paul, which means that he's going to reveal more to Troy and Melanie as we study. So it's very important, okay? Progressive and subsequent revelation is going to happen. I think also appointed is used. I'm not going to go deep dive into that, but appointed is used. Go back to Acts 9 and see what's used there. And I'm not pointing out all the differences, okay? And it's interesting. Paul could not see for the glory in the next verse. I find that interesting. So how do we see? We see through the glory of God. We see through what Christ has. We see through what the Spirit interacts with our spirit. It's not our sight that we're seeing. The natural man has the sight there so that we have the light of creation, which we've talked about. We have that light of obedience, but the spiritual man now has the light of God. That's the spirit, and my Genesis thing. I'm gonna do a spoiler here. That's what the animals don't have. The animals don't have the soul, which let me stop. There's a different way that God works with the animal spirit. So I don't know why I went there other than spirit, but it's my video. All right. Let's see. So now you can see that's why I went there to light. And let's see, here we go. This is where I went Ananias, talking again about stature and so forth. Devout man, according to the law, having a good report of all the Jews which dwelt there. So if Ananias is the one that interacts, not if, he did, with Saul on this Acts 9, Acts 22 account, that gives credence, credibility, comfort that this Saul is not the same Saul in Acts 8 and the same Saul at the beginning of Acts 9 and the same Saul that we're learning here that was murdering, killing, right? He's not that guy. And so that's why I want to mention that earlier. Paul goes into the synagogues because he's Jewish. He has people like Ananias, and that word gets out. They hear of this. That Ananias says, God came to me by a vision and said Saul is to do these things and suffer for him. Well, that's some credibility. Now, we see that credibility falls pretty fast because they lie in wait to kill him multiple times. They imprison him multiple times, but they did that to someone else too, I can't remember exactly who it was in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, but someone else came with truth and they sought to kill him and ultimately did. But actually, he laid down his life. So let me say it correctly. What are we getting to? Verse 13, hopefully, or 16? Okay, because time's going by. Let's see. Anything else I want to talk about? Verse 14, the God of our fathers hath chosen thee. So it's a good thing to understand who our fathers are there. That's a Genesis teaching going forward. That thou should knowest his will, God's will, right? So that shouldest know his will, right? And see the just one and shouldest hear the voice of his mouth. So that means Saul, Paul, is going to be actually interacting with God. We talked about the revelation, but let's go a step further. That revelation, going to hear the voice. Should know his will, right? Shouldest know his will, right? And he was chosen. Very important stuff. But verse 15 sums it up, right? Shout, that's future, be his witness unto all men of what thou hast seen and heard. So thou, how many people is thou? He's talking directly to Paul. So does that dismiss everything before? I don't know. Romans 15 said the things written aforetime were for our knowledge. There you go. So for us to learn and go through, doesn't mean some of it doesn't still apply. But they're saying here, Paul is unique. His apostleship, his ministry is unique. But I like this here. And Ananias looks at him and says, dude, what are you doing? And now why tarriest thou? Right? Get up and straight away. Arise and be baptized and wash away thy sins, calling on the name of the Lord. And again, the baptized thing, I gave the 1 Corinthians reference in video 2. So if you struggle with that, just go and take a look at that. Okay. Um, I don't know if there's anything else to add. So we'll end here and we'll go to Acts 26 in the next one and we'll try and wrap it up. But again, listen, we're not covering everything in here. We're not taking deep dives, not giving all the cross references I love to do. We both want to go deeper and give cross references and explain words, but we're not doing that here. It is for you to study, but if you want to study together, we'll be happy to do it with you. All right, so Acts 26 in a short moment. Grace, peace, and love.